Today, we're going to talk about why VCHA's pre-debut was both wonderful and a mess. For those of you guys that don't know, VCHA is the newest girl group from JYP, and they were formed from the survival show A2K, which in and of itself was a very, very interesting show. Now, I was actually very interested in this show because the idea of an American girl group debuting under the Korean formula seemed like it could be very, very successful. But as you're gonna see, there's a lot of things about the A2K show that kinda gave me an uneasy feeling. To recap A2K very quickly, the show begins with a set of auditions in 5 different cities, and from those auditions, only 11 girls are picked to participate in the show. The show is then split up into 2 different sections, the LA bootcamp and the Korea bootcamp. And if you haven't seen the show and are interested in watching it, honestly, just skip the LA bootcamp. You're not missing much other than JYP glazing himself and one member getting eliminated. But honestly, she didn't even have a lot of screen time, so you're not really missing much. Now this is where things start to get interesting, because at the beginning of the Korea bootcamp, we find out that another one of the members, Melissa, decided to drop out of the competition. Now we don't know why she left, but what we do know is that she was recently on another reality show, which I don't recommend, it wasn't very good, but we will talk about Melissa a little bit later, so just keep her in mind for now. That leads us into the individual competitions, of which Yuna finishes last. Then we go on to the group competitions, of which Yuna finishes last, and she gets eliminated. So from the 11 members, we are down to 8. That leads us into the finals, where the 8 remaining members are split up into 2 groups of 4, and they perform a bunch of songs back to back. JYP gives them a little bit of feedback, and it's finally time to pick the final members. Out of the 8 remaining members, only 6 will get to debut. The 6 members that debuted are Kaylee, KG, Lexus, Camila, Savannah, and Kendall. That meant that both Christina and Gina were eliminated, which at the time I was a little bit confused about because I felt like both of them were very, very consistent throughout the entirety of the show. But ultimately, JYP decided that they didn't fit the vision for what he wanted this group to be, so they had to be eliminated. And as the credits roll, we finally get the announcement of what this group is going to be called. And this was the first red flag for me. The group is named VCHA, and honestly, this has to be one of the worst decisions that JYP has done. And he wore plastic pants, so that's how you know it's bad. I understand the vision, I understand what JYP was going for, but ultimately, this is an American group that is supposed to promote internationally. So why in the world would you give them a Korean word as their name? It makes no sense. It's not even that catchy, otherwise I would let it slide. But you know what it looks like? It looks like someone slammed their hand on their keyboard and said, oh, you know what, that looks alright. But that's okay, because the name could be bad as long as the music is good. Look at G-Idol, for example. They are idols in a group called Idol, and they have a G in parentheses and a dash. It's a bad name, but the creativity and the passion is clear. So even if you're not a big fan of their music, you can respect their artistry and respect the fact that they're trying something new. VCHA had 3 pre-debut singles, and was it a great success? Well, not so much. The first track is Y.O.Universe, and it has a music video. It pretty much just shows the members going through the struggles of grinding and pushing yourself to overcome obstacles to succeed in your specific careers. And it's cool, it's visually very nice, but the song itself, not so much. I think the biggest problem is that this song feels a little bit too childish for them. This group is definitely ready for a more mature sound, not necessarily a mature concept, because I understand that these members are young, so I don't want them to do a mature concept, but a mature sound is different, and I think they can do it. I'm going to show you examples of what I mean a little bit later, but just keep that in mind, because for now, Y.O.Universe reminds me a lot of like early era Twice, like Ooh Ah Twice, and honestly, that kind of sound was outdated in 2015, and it's worse now in 2023. Admittedly, Y.O.Universe and Go Getter are not bad tracks by any means, but Know Me Like That is just not it. it is not what they should have released. And I understand that I'm not the target demographic for this group, but at the same time, I think it's important to bring this up because this is supposed to be a global group. They're supposed to be able to tap into the American market in a way that other groups are not able to. But if this is the style of music and the quality of the songs that we're going to be receiving from them, I just don't think that they're going to succeed in a Western audience. One of the reasons why I say that they're ready for a more mature sound is because some of the members in A2K have actually released music before, and if you go back and listen to some of those songs, you will notice just the absolute potential that this group has. A good example of this is Porcelain Queen by KG. I recommend this track. I mean, don't get me wrong, her vocals aren't as great as they could be, but it's the production on this track that gives you an idea of what they're capable of. Now let's go back to Melissa. Remember her? She did drop out, but she has released songs before. And if you listen to those songs, the emotions and the writing and the way that she expresses that in those songs is incredible. It is better than anything that VCHA put out in these 3 songs. But that's not all, because remember Gina? Even though she got eliminated, on the same day that VCHA debuted, she released a song called Freedom, and I think this is a perfect example of what VCHA could have been. Even though she's one of the younger members that was on the show, like the style, the emotions, and the energy here is exactly what's missing from something like Y.O.Universe. When you compare this to other girl groups like New Jeans and even XG, it's hard to tell what direction they want to take this group into, because when you look at New Jeans, they win off of simplicity, right? Their name itself, New Jeans, are just 2 English words put together. What does it mean? It does not matter, because anyone, even if you don't speak English, you will be able to recognize those 2 words put together. So the elaborate meaning behind what this group means is irrelevant, because it's catchy enough just by looking at it at a glance. And then on top of that, their strategy is to make their songs viral on TikTok by making it so simple and so catchy that it's hard to avoid. XG, on the other hand, succeeds through creativity. If you've ever seen an XG music video, it is insane. Some of the concepts that they're coming up with, I have literally never seen in any other of the videos we've watched, and that's really, really exciting, especially because it feels like they're embracing the Western sounds and the Western culture in a way that I have not seen any other group do it. That's what makes these groups very interesting, and for some reason VCHA has done neither one of these strategies, which puts them in like a state of limbo. This leads me to my question: is something like VCHA even necessary in the current industry landscape? And honestly, the answer is no. Because if you look at just JYP, they now have a total of 5 different girl groups that are currently releasing music. And honestly, I feel like that's way too much. The industry is already saturated as it is, and this got me thinking, JYP technically already has a global girl group, and that's called NMIXX. From the beginning, NMIXX seemed to be going for this really creative, really experimental style that I think would have been a huge hit in the West. But I think the problem was that OO was not received very well, and JYP got scared, so they started pulling back on a lot of the craziness that NMIXX was supposed to be, and now you have the NMIXX that you see today, which is still pretty good, don't get it twisted. NMIXX is already a huge hit among Latin American audiences because some of the members actually speak Spanish, and coincidentally, while the A2K show was happening, NMIXX was in Mexico doing promotions for an event. I feel like NMIXX was always meant to be that global group, but based on that early reception, they had to play it safer, and they learned a lot. So for this debut, the VCHA debut, they went really safe to avoid any kind of like backlash or controversy. But ultimately, I feel like this actually ended up hurting the group more than it actually helped them. I know I've been fairly negative throughout this whole thing, but I honestly do want this group to succeed. At the end of the day, they're an American group, so I have to feel some kind of loyalty to them. And all my criticisms, they are directed towards the company, not the members themselves. I know that they don't really control any of that, so they're not at fault. But the company, they should do better because they have a lot of potential and a lot of talent on their hands. And I feel like that's going to be wasted if we don't get something very creative and refreshing for their actual debut track. Ultimately, like I said, we're only at the pre-debut stage, so it's hard to tell exactly what direction this group is going to go in, but if things don't change, this group might be DOA, and that's why VCHA is a wonderful mess. Anyways, that's going to do it for the video. Let me know, do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know some of your thoughts in the comments, and as always, take care, and I will see you guys soon.